I think this is a year in which what remained of the centre collapsed.
Well, I always say that Keir Starmer is Blair without the vision or the charisma. So he's sort of speed run the rush into unpopularity. The problems for Nigel Farage, I think, are coming from the right, and I'll tell you where.
They will come together and plan a way of stopping reform. I think that could be the roadblock to him becoming Prime Minister.
To review the year, you need two guests at the moment. They are Ash Sarkar, Contributing Editor at Novara Media. Hello.
Hello.
And Tim Stanley, Chief Sketchwriter at The Telegraph and host of the Daily Tea podcast. Thank you for coming.
Hello.
And I understand, although you may have different views, you disagree admirably. You're that rare find at the moment, people who can hold a different view without hating the other person.
I've got to say that Tim's someone who has taught me to argue better, because we do a show called The Moral Maze together, and what I like is that you're always curious, but you always put what I say under pressure.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. And I agree. Ash is wonderful. Ash is lovely. And whenever people attack you on social media, I always want to step in and bop them on the nose.
Yeah, but this
is chauvinist of me, and you would hate that.
No, I don't think anyone thinks it's chauvinist. It's just so unusual. The tone of our conversation has got louder. The silos that we live in have got more fortified. I don't want to talk to you. You don't agree with me on this. And that's been exemplified for me in 2025. What kind of a year has it been for you? What, if you took the temperature of 2025?
Well, when Spurs won the Europa League, I got so hammered that I forgot the first half of the year. I think in terms of what we're seeing in politics, what we are witnessing is that the hyper-personalisation of people's social media feeds and the desire to have information which reinforces your worldview or a caricatured villain that you can oppose and tear down, this has now become the dominant way of contesting politics, particularly in the United States.
And because we unfortunately speak the same language, a lot of the trends in the US have come over here, whether we want them or not.
Striking thing was when Charlie Kirk was assassinated this year, it felt as bad for many British Conservatives as it did American ones. That was a globalised event, even though he really was a very parochial figure. I think this is a year in which what remained of the centre collapsed. In 2024, you might remember when Labour won, Andrew Marr said it felt as though everything had quietened down a bit and people talked about the adults coming back into the room. And that's the way Keir Starmer sees himself. He sees himself as the last centrist standing before Nigel Farage. But I'm afraid, I think, with the difficulties Labour's had this year, that has been tested to destruction. People don't think centrism works. They don't particularly want it. And we end the year entering into a period of 4 or 5 party politics.
Yeah.
People who are left-wing are saying, I want to vote for a left-wing person, like the Green Party. And people who are right-wing seem to be solidly sticking by Nigel Farage.
And in the time we have, let's do the government, the left and the right. But if I can pick up on you, centrism, that's kind of Blairism. It's another word for Blairism, isn't it? How do you think Keir Starmer's government in 2025 has done against the record of Blair? What kind of Labour administration has it been?
Well, I always say that Keir Starmer is Blair without the vision or the charisma. So he's sort of speed run the rush into unpopularity. And I think the reasons for that are really simple and they were predictable. There was a misreading of 2024, I think, by the likes of Andrew Marr, because it wasn't that there was a ringing endorsement for Keir Starmer.
It was a loveless landslide, they called it.
It was a loveless landslide. It was a collapse of support for the Conservative Party, one which we're still trying to work out, will they recover from it? And what they wanted was some kind of real change, right? And because of how discredited the previous government was, they were willing to put that faith in Labour. But because Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, they're all tactics, no strategy. So they were just thinking, how do I get past this next hurdle? How do we distinguish ourselves from Liz Truss? OK, we'll elevate the Office for Budgetary Responsibility to a demigod status. Right. We're going to have these fiscal rules. We're going to be disciplined by the bond markets.
So they've been the creature of events. They're not in charge of them. I mean, did they look like they're in charge of events to you?
No. Tack left, tack right, and the worst moment of the year, both politically and personally, was the Chancellor crying during PMQs. That sent a signal as to how tough things were within the parliamentary party, but also sent a signal to everyone out there that this government is losing control. Blair somehow managed to turn centrism into a philosophy, embodied in himself. But yeah, by contrast, this lot, they just simply go wherever they need to go. So they began the year committed to some form of welfare reform. In June, there was a big rebellion against it. They end the year actually abolishing the child cap on benefits and the two-child child benefit cap.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that we know the public does not reward U-turns, even when they agree with them, because they remember that you've changed your mind and it looks weak.
But I think you can put the fiscal rules into this category as well. Fiscal rules, there are good reasons for having, this version or that version. But ultimately, you decide what they are. Some will work better than others.
Yes.
With Rachel Reeves's first budget, I'm talking about the 2024 one, there was not a ringing endorsement from the bond markets. Why? Because no one really believed that she could deliver what she said she was going to, which was growth, under these constraints. And now she's in this invidious position where she's ruled out all these forms of tax rises, of income tax and
VAT, national insurance on employees.
Insurance. At the same time, she's having to spend to prop up collapsing public services, and she's trying to do it within a straitjacket of her own creation. So no one's particularly confident in her, but if she breaks those rules or breaks one of those big manifesto pledges, well, then all confidence in her is gone.
It's interesting that when she did cry, the reaction from the market was when Keir Starmer stood by her. The market rose, effectively, on him bolting herself to her. But I wonder how you think they've done in terms of running their own shop. Whatever policy they have, viewers will disagree whether they want more welfare spending or whether they want more tax rises. But basically, how do they run the shop? How do they run Number 10? How do they communicate?
Well, another embarrassing moment this year was when the government set out to quash an attempted coup by Wes Streeting, one that didn't exist. But after they set out to denounce it, it seems more likely that Wes Streeting will challenge Keir Starmer as a result of that than before.
So did the Downing Street operation boost Wes Streeting's chances of replacing the Prime Minister?
Undeniably.
That's happened in 2025. That unwittingly, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has boosted a rival who wasn't running. Is that what's happened?
Well, yeah, and Wes Streeting is to the right of the Labour Party, I think it's fair to say.
Yes.
But because of this schism between him and Number 10, he's now trying to present himself as something of a soft left figure. So all these rumours, could he strike a deal with Rayner?
Should he strike a deal with Angela Rayner?
Well, the thing is,
should she strike a deal? Don't be sexist. And I mean this. Why is it in the Labour Party that it always comes down to what can a man get away with? If Angela Rayner ran, she could win.
Will she run?
She almost certainly will run.
So it could be Wes versus Angela.
She's got a much better chance with the membership than Wes does. I mean, this is one of the things about the Labour Party, and we'll talk about this when we analyse the left, is that it's always had a membership which is a lot more left-wing than its parliamentary Labour Party. That's why Keir Starmer had to appear as a left-wing candidate and then change tack once he was in office. So Wes Streeting by himself, with the principles he actually holds, he's not got a chance in hell.
But these Labour MPs, this current batch, they're massive cohorts, thousands of them, they're behaving just as badly and ruthlessly as the Conservatives were famed for, it seems.
Yes.
How much do you think the Labour MPs understand the historic role that they have? They seem to be ill-disciplined.
Well, the whips keep trying to remind them of what happened to Margaret Thatcher, of all people. They keep saying to them, remember, in the early 80s, the government did some tough things. They were down in the polls, but they won in the end. I think it's so funny that Labour's trying to whip its people by...
good war.
I know, exactly. There were very specific circumstances in which she bounced back. Part of the problem is we have a landslide, but it's a landslide with a lot of very narrow majorities.
Yeah, thin.
And those people are worried about local politics, and they are competing against different parties in different places. So we're beginning to see the emergence within Parliament. You can see it from the gallery. You can see there are some right-wing people who want to emphasise immigration, Shabana Mahmood, new Home Secretary. There are some left-wing people who want to emphasise benefits, who are embarrassed by the winter fuel decision and don't want to see that happen again. But in this era, what the public seems to reward is, one, authenticity, which Ange has in spades, and the second thing is loyalty to constituent groups. As Ronald Reagan used to say, you leave the dance with the person who brung you. In other words, you don't get elected on one prospectus and then change mid-parliament. I think a lot of MPs would like Labour to return to what they feel they were elected on.
And you've mentioned an American president before me. Can you say that Keir Starmer's played Donald Trump better than all the European leaders?
I would say absolutely. And when you look at the past year where Keir Starmer has many self-inflicted wounds, one clear win has been his ability to avoid a punitive tariff regime.
He's beaten the Europeans. Their taxes are higher than ours.
By being very reluctant to throw in his lot with Europe, by striking an independent path. And I think that there are two world leaders who've played Trump well. One is Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, and one is Keir Starmer.
I'm going to disagree with that. I think he got lucky. American conservatives happen to regard Britain as the ground zero in the global civilizational culture war. Trump happens to have a mother who came from some island in Scotland, and he happens to like the royal family. I think a lot of stars align in Keir Starmer's favour. But what is the one issue globally right now that matters? Ukraine. And on that, it's still Europe and Zelensky in one corner, Trump and Putin in the other. So I don't see how Keir playing nice diplomatically has persuaded the president of anything on that subject.
Yeah, and it'll be noticed that the two of you are sniffy about Labour, and you're saying it's luck. He brandished the paper in the White Office. That was showmanship. Then he got a second state visit with the King. He's leaning into those pro-British things. So I must ask you, is there a bit of Keir who is here to stay if it goes badly in May, or is it bye-bye in May if the elections go badly to the leader of the Labour Party?
Well, there's a few different moving parts, right? So there's who's going to be the successor. Where will Morgan McSweeney, who is the guy who got Keir Starmer into this position, who's he going to choose as his next candidate? I think it's likely to be Shabana Mahmood. She's a Labour Together person. She's pivoting right on immigration. And there's who are the membership going to want? Andy Burnham isn't currently an MP. And I think that with the executive committee, the NEC being stacked as it is, it's going to be difficult for him to become one. But he's the guy who the membership would swing behind if they had the chance.
So do you think he'll be gone in April? No, he can't be gone in April. Will he be gone in 26?
I think Starmer is solid as well as he is stolid. I think Labour has a communications problem, and not everything is disaster. Growth is up a little bit, wages are up a bit.
Second highest in the G7, the growth.
And it could be that in 3 or 4 years' time, the economic picture is much better. Part of the problem is that the government is divided between those who think it's all about delivery, just get on with the job, promise little, deliver a lot, and those like Wes Streeting and Angela Rayner, who from different wings of the party are saying, no, you need to link that to a vision for government, and it's that vision that Keir Starmer lacks.
Let's talk about the left. You promised this long before I did, and I'm chairing the discussion, but let's move, if we can, to the left. If you're saying that Keir Starmer lacks an ism and lacks a communication skill, can I say to you that he needs some Zach Polanski? Is that a person in British politics at the moment who's arrived quickly and has impressed you? You don't agree with him, but has he got an ism?
I think so. Well, it's old-fashioned socialism. It's not really environmentalism. I happened to be present at the event at which it was announced that he had won, and I think one speaker spoke at any length about ecology. It was mostly about the most important issue for this year for the left, Gaza, and then social justice. And he's tying those things together with a little bit of green.
But has he got an ism? Do you respect his ism?
I do. I always respect people who stand on principle. And my problem is it's very easy to do when you are a small party and you're not properly being challenged yet. You have no seats to defend, etc., etc.
Yeah, when we drill into the policies, it's going to be difficult. I mean, he wants to legalise drugs, for instance. Is that a vote winner in Guildford?
Maybe not in Guildford, but I don't think Guildford is one of their target seats. And when you look at the list of seats in which the Greens came second in 2024, they are largely urban constituencies, which are quite diverse and also have high graduate populations. So maybe not in Guildford, maybe not in Blackburn, but Tottenham, Islington, parts of Hackney, perhaps.
Yes.
And I think that this is actually Zach Polanski's achievement, which is he recognised the opportunity for the Greens. In my constituency, which is Tottenham, the Greens took a chunk out of David Lammy's majority simply because people were so disappointed with Labour's positioning over Gaza that they ran a paper candidate, the Greens did. I didn't see hide nor hair of this guy, and he somehow got thousands of votes just because people were so angry. Yeah. And so I think Zach looked at that and said, here's my opportunity. And then the other thing that he benefited from is that your party, which was the project which was initially launched by Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana.
Then they fell out.
I mean, those of us from broken homes can feel a bit triggered. The memories come back, but they were so slow to get out the gate, and then also there was so much rancour that Polanski could say, actually, we, the Greens, are going to be the electoral vehicle to the left of Labour.
So do you think the Polanski Green Party has outflanked the Your Party that was meant to get votes from the left of British politics?
Not on purpose. I think it's more that Your Party has imploded. I mean, at their opening conference, one half of the effective leadership, Zara Sultana, ended up boycotting it because some people were initially denied entrance to the conference because they were already members of another party. And I suspect Your Party, having passed lots of votes and allowed those sorts of people in, has probably already been captured by the Scientology-like cult of the SWP, the Socialist Worker Party. The left-wing alliance, the Progressive Alliance, has changed. It's no longer men in overalls smoking pipes and all that sort of thing. It's now, when I went to the Green Party election conference, it looked very much like its leadership. Zach Polansky is gay and Jewish. His deputy leaders were a Muslim man and an incredibly well-spoken white woman. And I thought that's it. It's an urban, little bit of rural for the ecology stuff, but it's that mix of the very wealthy, the very poor, with some ethnic minorities mixed into.
What I'll say is that Your Party actually has an opportunity to do something a bit different. So they voted at conference in favour of collective leadership, which crucially meant neither Corbyn nor Sultana, because I think the membership were like, we're kind of sick of your fighting. And there are other models of political party, particularly in Europe. You look at something like the Belgian Workers' Party, where they've said, OK, what we want to do is build social infrastructure for the left. So social centres, health clinics, so on and so forth.
Bigger state, really.
Another way of looking at it is something like the Democratic Socialists of America. So they existed before Bernie Sanders, but then because everyone kept searching on Google for, like, what is democratic socialism, they saw their membership blossom. Okay. And that's where Zoran came from.
It's Mamdani. That's the big story for the left of this year, is the election of Mamdani as mayor of New York.
And so the DSA became this way of finding new candidates. And I think that this is maybe what those 50,000 Your Party members are interested in, is social infrastructure and finding new leadership.
But I wonder if you can both tell me what success for the British left looks like. Is it a couple of high-profile mayoralties? Is it becoming the fifth party in British politics, able to do deals with a centre-left coalition at the next Parliament? Yeah. What's the high watermark for the British left, do you both think?
It's the latter, I think. We focused a lot in this year upon reform being around 30% in the polls and, will they have to form a coalition government? We've slightly turned away from what's happening on the left, where we could end up with a coalition-type situation there of Labour having to be propped up by the Greens or Your Party or Independents.
Is that where you would go if you were on the left? Would you be trying to do a deal?
Yeah. This is like European politics. They've been living that way for decades.
Yeah, and it's fairly normal for European politics. Don't forget the high watermark for a socialist party was 40% in 2017, and that was Labour under Corbyn. And I think that Labour under Keir Starmer is unlikely to reach those heights again, and it means that there are a whole load of votes, maybe not enough for an outright majority, for the Greens or for Your Party or for independents to claim.
And the thing that I find we're not talking about on Newsnight, and maybe you're doing it on the Daily Team, maybe you're doing it on Novara, is this arrival of the 16-year-old voter at the next general election. It feels to me to be, and I say hello to Scottish viewers who voted at 16 in Scottish elections, so I know that's already happened. But don't you find that to be a really interesting...
Which way they're going to go? Yeah, because Labour has enfranchised them, but it doesn't look like they're going to tip towards Labour. I think they can go both ways. I suspect they will split left and right. But I don't know about you, but I meet the right-wing ones, and they're really right-wing. They are a generation that grew up on woke and COVID. They were locked indoors, and in the case of the men, they were told they were worthless and their country was evil. They are coming out of that experience radicalised, and we're beginning to see some of that in online discourse.
There is a huge divergence between the political opinions of young men and young women. And we're, I think, going to resemble more and more South Korea, but without the lovely clean streets and high tech.
and everyone playing the violin to grade 8.
I wish. But what you're seeing is that, young men and young women can sometimes occupy completely different cultural and information universes. And again, this comes back to the sort of personalisation of social media feeds, which is young people are being fed very different content on account of their gender.
But also it's the way we began the discussion where I said, well, how delighted I was to meet you, full stop, but how delightful it is to meet two people with different views who enjoy hearing the other person. Because if you're now saying we divide into how men and women, young men and women think, as well as our silos, I think that's depressing. But we have to come back to it because you've raised fascinating predictions about the 16-year-old voters. I'm glad you went there. So let's turn to the right. I want to say to you both, Kemi Badenoch She's got new speechwriter. She's got some new pep in her pencil.
Maybe. I don't know who, I'm going to say who we is, but we've been telling her since the beginning of the year, go for it, girl. Just unleash the House of Commons. But she held back because Kemi
was so bad. People thought she was working for the Labour Party.
That was on purpose. Kemi was told by her people, rein it in, people don't like you, tone it down. And now she's worked out that after a year of everyone deciding they hate Keir Starmer, if she actually goes for it, it works very well for her.
And lean into the personal attack on, because she's very strong on personal attacks.
Yes.
She's not sisterly with Rachel Reeves. No sisterhood there.
No, and Rachel Reeves constantly saying, I'm the first female chancellor, no longer works when a woman has laughed in your face. But she's been proven right on two things. One, develop policy rather than just splash it at people like Reform does. It has held her party together. Leaving the ECHR was a controversial position among the Tories 12 months ago.
She led them on that, didn't she?
But now it is not. The second thing is actually using the parliamentary party to say things like, well, the government's not coming out with a welfare reform plan. We'll invent one for you.
You like her.
Farage can't do that. I've come around to liking her. I was a sceptic.
You're a Badenoch babe.
Yeah,
you like her.
Well, infamously, I call her mummy, and everyone always, always takes.
That's a clip.
It's an unusual one. But winning in Parliament, being nasty to Rachel Reeves, having a go at Keir Starmer, has rallied her troops. But it's not like it's rallied the country to the Conservatives.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Most people don't pay attention to what happens in the chamber. They certainly don't watch PMQs. And I think that this is one of the issues with how political media has functioned, is that in some ways we're kind of stuck in the 19th century. We haven't even made it to the 20th century, which is that we think about what's happening in terms of politics as what's happening in terms of SW1. I don't think that Kemi Badenoch getting better write-ups in The Spectator or wherever else is going to stop votes leaching to Reform.
Where I disagree is it has started to stop MPs defecting. All the people joining Reform right now are ex-MPs. A significant one coming across this year was Danny Kruger, but that looks like it was it. Reform keeps saying we might get Rob Jenrick. I now don't think they will. He's too busy making sure people have bought their tickets on the underground.
Yeah. And also, I wonder if the other thing let's move on actually, is Nigel Farage, who's got success at the polls, the opinion polls rather than the actual votes that he's got yet.
Seats. I don't know. He won a lot of council seats this year.
Well, we'll come.
Yeah.
He's not the parliamentary performer. He looks at out of sorts.
He can't.
You're there every day.
I'm there every day, and the system is stacked against him. So at PMQs, Ed Davey is guaranteed a question 2. Kemi Badenoch gets 6. Nigel Farage, who's ahead of both of them. In fact, I think if you added them together, he probably gets more than them. He doesn't get any unless he's lucky. So the system works against him, so he's not bothering with Parliament. Sometimes, one PMQs, he famously sat up in the gallery and just watched.
What about, I'm not interrupting, I'd like to ask you both to lock horns on where Nigel Farage and Reform is going. There's a sort of Caerphilly model where he's defeated at a serious election, and then there's lots of by-elections and the May regional elections and national elections and local elections where he does very well, to Tim's point. So do you feel we've still got the mo with Reform?
So when it came to Caerphilly, it actually has a very low migrant population. So when it comes to a party saying immigrants are the reason why there are pressures on housing, the NHS or wherever else, it didn't really work so well. The second thing was that Plaid were very good at saying Labour aren't going to be a safe home for an anti-reform vote. And they made that pitch very, very well, and they were able to mobilise that anti-reform vote effectively behind them. The problems for Nigel Farage, I think, are coming from the right, and I'll tell you where. Nigel Farage, I think, at heart is a civic nationalist, but the rising momentum is coming from ethnic nationalists, and this is something which is really dominant in America. That is the ideology of someone like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is someone whose money Nigel Farage would like very, very much, and I think that it's something which is beginning to infect the rhetoric and tone of British politics. So Robert Jenrick making those videos where he's freaking out that you can't see enough white people. Don't worry, Robert, there's 2 right here. That is an expression of that kind of ethnic nationalism, seeing things through the frame of ethnicity and race. And I don't think that that's something that Farage can lean into it, but I don't think he wants to go 2-footed in.
No, he knows that. And in the same way that Starmer sees himself as the last man before Farage, Farage sees himself as the last man before Tommy Robinson. And he's of the view that this is one reason why Reform has somewhat this year toned down some of its rhetoric and its promises, because it thinks it might win. It's nervous about that. He keeps saying, we're not ready. And he thinks an election's due in 2027. He's still trying to build his team, but he thinks if we get in, we've got to get this right, because if we don't get this right, politics won't reset back to the Starmerites. Politics will go somewhere more extreme on left or right.
And as we just a moment ago spoke about a pact that could come on the left, Nigel Farage has been explicit about a pact that could come on the right, and he made one with Boris Johnson, contributing to the 2019 majority of 80, which we thought was historic at the time, and then Keir Starmer got a big one. So do you think we're looking at Nigel Farage as kingmaker after the next election, or as king?
Probably as... Well, no, it could go either way, but neither the Tories nor he will commit to it until the election has happened, partly because he wants a shot at winning a majority by himself.
So he will contest all seats?
He will contest all seats, but we've mentioned Caerphilly, and that's a reminder that what could happen in the next election is there's a big movement to try and stop reform by parties in different places, Plaid in Wales, Green in some bourgeois areas, Labour in some traditional. They will come together and plan a way of stopping reform. I think that could be the roadblock to him becoming Prime Minister.
And this business of him we go back and listen to what he might or might not have said at school. Is that another sign of what to expect in our politics as we go into 26? Every video made by young Tim Stanley, maybe the 16-year-old Tim Stanley, some of your comments, which were in the past famously rude, are we going to have to dredge them up if you want to run for office? Are we going to see loads of videos of people at school?
I mean, I think that is a part of our reality now. I mean, someone, I think Marie Leconte said that the nudes of a future Prime Minister are on somebody's phone right now. In this era of digital saturation, everyone has embarrassing stuff that's out there somewhere. My instinct about the Nigel Farage school racism allegations is that I think they have the ring of truth. I think this stuff happened. Makes sense to me that he could have been a very obnoxious racist bully, but I don't think that is going to turn anyone new against him. If you go and you look at the polling in YouGov, Nigel Farage is the most famous politician in the UK, the most popular politician in the UK, and yet a plurality of people believe that he's a racist. And that's how things are right now. Yeah. I don't think trying to go for him based on what's happened in his past is going to matter that much when people are really worried about their present and their future.
And also, at the same time as social media has saturated us with private content, people have become better consumers of it. Remember the grab them by the P in 2016, Donald Trump, the voters ignored it. The re-election of Trump in 2024 sent a message that actually people really want this, and if they really want something, they will ignore all the dirt. And the same will happen to Nigel Farage. His numbers have not slid. It's so funny how saying that my hands naturally do a Trump thing. Yeah, no, you've got that. You're really leaning into it now. You've been very influenced. Maybe he's the daddy. If Kemi's the mummy, maybe Donald's the daddy. So what? No, let's hope that never makes it.
Freudian chaise longue here or something.
So I'm a Tory. It's all psychosexual.
I think the thing is that through Nigel Farage we get to Brexit, and through the events of the last 8 weeks we get Brexit rearing its head back at the end of 2025 in a way that I wasn't expecting. And the parties are still nervous about what to say about it. We rang the Greens for our conversation. They say they're aware that the public made a decision. They might like to get back in the EU, but it's not currently one of their campaigning slogans. So we get to the Lib Dems, they've got a 4-step programme which involves closer customs union, closer access to the single market. Do you think the Lib Dems are really the only party in British politics actively speaking up for a bigger EU life in Britain? Well, they are the remaining Remainers, that's true. Continuing Remain. But nonetheless, they're not saying go directly into the EU. They're not saying vote for us and we'll take you straight back in. Why don't they just say that, by the way? Because even they recognise that would be unpopular, and I'm sure a lot of Brexiteers actually vote for them because they are in many seats just the opposition party. But they have worked out that this could divide Labour. When you have no policies for growth, when there's no obvious place for growth to come, there's one option left, which is lower trade barriers with Europe. So it makes perfect sense to press that open sore, that open wound. And Labour is already giving away a little bit on some mobility schemes for young people. I don't think it's very controversial, but they're already moving in that direction, and there are some parts of the party that love to go all the way. Starmer rightly recognises they can't, because whatever votes they still cling to among the working class at the next election, they will throw away if there's any whiff of Labour was lying about Brexit. So let's bring the themes together. Brexit's come back at the end of 2025, a polarised country and a polarised politics. You've addressed that in your different ways. What are some themes and predictions as we scamper to the bar, if there is such a promise?
Arsenal bottling the Premier League. Nailed on. I think that next year, because already social media is becoming saturated with AI slop, and certain apps, Instagram, Twitter, they're becoming unusable. And what we're seeing amongst the elites, I'm talking about, you know, the 1% of the 1%ers, is that they're now driving, you know, for my kids, I don't want them to have any screens. I want them to have digital-free playtime. I want to construct these beautiful playrooms, which are all analog. There is going to be a movement away from social media, screens, and AI, and it's going to start amongst the very, very rich. But I think that that's going to be really important for journalists to consider. How do we find audiences when a significant number of our readership don't want to engage with the screen at all?
So you've gone for a cultural space prediction for 26, which is kind of Australia has seen the future. It's kind of like...
Absolutely.
What do you think? Would you like to make a cultural or a political prediction?
I think there's going to be a right-wing backlash against mental health. There's going to be an argument that it's too broadly defined and that's undermining the welfare system. I think there's going to be peace in Ukraine to the advantage of Russia, and that's going to cause a big existential crisis within Europe. I think the economy is probably going to get worse and taxes will go up at the next budget. And I'm going to fill out an application form to move to Alaska. But of course, I can't even get in. I finally got the president I like, but he won't let foreigners into the country. I've been hung by my own petard.
Well, you're going to be back on this sofa. Never mind, we're allowed through the doors here. Thank you both very much. We've probably missed a lot of things, but we can all listen now for your predictions and get you back next year to check if they're right. But Tim and Ash, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.